Okay, everybody, we are here with a special guest who stopped by the Top Shelf Network studios to spend some time with the sweet and vicious girl, an author 11 times, a holistic coach, a fabulous woman, somebody I'm very excited to get to know more. Thank you so much, Victoria Moran, for stopping by Top Shelf Network. How are
I'm
you?
happy to be here.
Thank you.
You don't usually make it to the top shelf.
Oh, well, you are, honey. You are. So we have you here today to discuss your fabulous book that I'm actually excited to read as well, which is coming out on Thursday, April 26th. It's available for pre-order now, and it's called Main Street Vegan.
Yes, Main Street Vegan.
There it is.
This artichoke wants to save the world.
We love it. So Victoria, why don't you tell us about, how did you get started in the health and wellness world? You shared a little bit about when we were talking off camera before, but I definitely would like the viewers to know your journey because I think it's
Right.
very inspirational.
Well, I think most things start for most of us in childhood. And for me, I was a fat kid. And as we were saying before, that was unusual when I was a kid. I know now there's an obesity crisis and lots of obese and overweight children. But back then, there was kind of the two fat kids at school, and I was always one of them, regardless of what school I went to, and the other fat kid was always my friend. My dad was a diet doctor. My mom worked in the reducing industry, these places with belts and rollers where you would go in and you would jiggle. And the idea was if you would jiggle enough
Right.
and with sufficient intent, great chunks of yourself would float off into the stratosphere. Didn't work for me. Fat kid, bad for business. So I was always interested in nutrition. And I can remember going into my dad's private office, and one day I pulled out this big nutrition book that he had had in medical school, and I found a listing of foods by nutrient density. That's what we're calling it nowadays, the most nutrient per calorie. And I had never heard of any of these foods. They were things like kale and collards. It's like, what is this stuff? And of course, I know now what it is, but I had to get all the way down to spinach, which I knew because of Popeye.
Right.
And it was just not the kind of food that people were eating in those days. I mean,
Right.
it took decades before I ever saw some great-looking guy in a Got Kale t-shirt.
Right.
But they're
Cocktail.
out there now, and it's good.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So you've written 11 books. You are a certified holistic coach. You're an inspirational speaker. And as we discussed in the car, she's an Aries, just like me. So
Oh,
she's
boy.
very much a go-getter. What was the beginning? So you said that as you were growing up, you realized you wanted to educate yourself more about eating healthy and the proper ways. What was the beginning? What was your first book? How did that process happen where you say, I'm going to become an author, this is what I'm going to do, and you just put your mind to it and did it?
Yeah, well, I'm very lucky that I only know how to do one thing, words. I can do words written, I can do words spoken. That's
Okay.
my gift. And so many people have so many talents that they're always trying to figure out which one should I pursue. So it was easy for me. I knew it was going to be words.
Right.
So when I was 14, I got a press card from a teen magazine because I
Wow.
wanted, now I'm going to tell everybody how old I am. I wanted to meet the Beatles. And I did. I got into my first Beatles press
Wow.
conference when I was 14. The next one a year later, and when I was 17, Paul McCartney bought me a Scotch and Coke, and everybody
Oh.
says it's illegal to drink Scotch when you're 17. But you know, it was England and it was Paul McCartney. So I knew
Wow.
early on that writing was a very good thing. It treated me extremely well. So I kept doing the writing for the teen magazines until I was about 19. And then I thought, well, now you have to grow up. You must put away childish things. And somebody said to me the other day, if you'd stuck with that, you'd be the publisher of Rolling Stone by now. But I was changing my diet at that time and started writing for health food store publications. And I also had a job writing. I wrote for a society magazine in Kansas City, where I'm from, and always wrote. Now, the books entered into it when I did a paper for college. I had a fellowship to do foreign study, and I decided way back then, this was 1985 when that first work came out, that I wanted to study vegans because I was vegetarian And vegans fascinated me, but there were so few in this country. I felt I had to go to England where they were closer together to really get enough of them to interview. And that actually became my first book, Compassion, the Ultimate Ethic. And I think it's the first book on vegan philosophy and practice that ever came from a major publisher. Amazing. So I'm returning to my roots here with Main Street Vegan.
That's beautiful. So now this is your book, Main Street Vegan, available in stores and online April 26th. And so this is the philosophy, is that anybody who would like to eat healthy, and doesn't have to be something that's out of the norm, it's something that's accessible for everyone.
It's accessible for everyone, but let's face it, it's out of the norm.
Right.
I mean, this is America, and most people certainly eat animal products. The most recent survey showed that 10% of Americans qualify or identify as vegetarian, and 2.5% identify as vegan.
Wow.
Now, that's a tiny percentage,
that's crazy.
but it's millions of people.
Right.
It's still lots of people. And we also know that lots of people are doing Meatless Monday, and some people talk about, they're vegetarian during the week, or they're vegan until 5 p.m. or whatever it is that they're doing. So there is some interest in eating fewer animals and more plants.
Right.
Because the plants are what's going to make you glow.
So
I
oh,
like that. The plants are going to make you glow.
So you're a vegan.
I have been
for many years.
28 years.
Wow.
For 28 years.
Yes.
What was it like your first in the beginning process? Because I mean, there's a lot of viewers here who watch Sweet and Vicious and who watch Top Shelf Network, and they are curious about this lifestyle.
Right.
And what was it like for you? Especially, being an author, going on lunch, interviews or meeting with your publisher. I mean, what was it like? Was it challenging at first?
Yeah, well, for me, the whole thing was challenging because I was also a practicing compulsive overeater in my young life. So I couldn't be vegan for a long time after I wanted to be, because it's very difficult to be a vegan and be a binge eater.
Right.
And you have to go to all this trouble to go to a health food store to find the junk food. You can't just go into the nearest gas station and load up. So I first had to deal with that by going within. I really knew that I had to treat my eating the way an alcoholic treats his alcoholism.
Right.
And that worked for me. And once that came together, the timing was pretty good in my life, that was just around the time that my daughter was born. And I was as vegan as I could be prior to that. I was vegan at home.
Okay.
And I thought, it's just too hard when you go out. I mean, how can you possibly go out and not eat meat, fish, eggs, dairy products? I mean, it just seemed like there's nothing left. But then I had this beautiful little baby. And I didn't want to give her sort of half-baked ethics.
Right.
It's one thing if the whole family eats meat and everybody believes that's fine, then that's the way they go. But I really believed I didn't want to be doing that. And I didn't want to have cheese and eggs for lots of ethical reasons as well as health reasons. Right. And I didn't want to try to convince this little kid, well, it's not good at home. But when we're out, then it's fine.
Right. Mixed message.
Just be consistent.
Right.
Take a leap of faith. And I did, and it's a day at a time, which is what I tell people in the book. This is not about next June when your sister gets married. This is not about October when you go to Argentina. This is about today. Can you do this today? Most people who want to can.
I like that.
I do like that.
So you mentioned your daughter, and I saw here that you actually, she helped write the book with you.
Yes, it's so exciting.
That must be wonderful to be able to work with your daughter. I mean, that's a gift.
It's fabulous.
That's amazing.
Because I really feel that she made me vegan. If she hadn't come along, I'm not sure how long it would have taken me to, get over the hump. And it's funny when you have an adult child, they take certain things from the mom, certain things from the family, and certain things they don't. And you never quite know which ones are going to stick. But she has kept the veganism and made it her own. She was such a brave little kid in my mind. Whenever she would go to a party or visit somebody's Sunday school or something, and they would have little snacks, and she couldn't read the label and she didn't know what was in it, she just wouldn't have it. And I remember being so
willpower.
impressed.
Seriously.
And I think she really had a heart for the animals. So now she's grown up and she's married, and her husband is vegetarian. They have a couple of vegetarian dogs. And they also have this incredible karma in that they got a yard in Manhattan. You know, I know your viewers are all over the world, but
Right.
to have a yard in Manhattan
Correct.
is like any place else having a natural waterfall and a unicorn.
Right.
I mean, it's really remarkable. So they have this yard, they have a garden.
Wow.
And it's just a wonderful, wonderful life to be able to see somebody who's taken a certain moral stance, and she eats healthy. She's a stunt performer. People say, oh, vegans are weak. She's like, watch me jump off a building.
Yeah. I love it. I love her energy. I feel
great.
contagious. I feel her energy just for you talking about her.
Yeah.
So you were able to, you know, from birth, help your daughter make that transition. And in your book, in Main Street Vegan, you also have 2 chapters, I believe, that's focusing on helping people make that transition.
Yeah, really the whole book is to help
Okay.
people make the transition, people who want to. But the first 2 are really to take people by the hand, because I think so often somebody will maybe see a video. A lot of people have seen Forks Over Knives, which is
Right.
about the health aspects of a plant-based diet, or somebody will see something from PETA or Mercy for Animals about the conditions in slaughterhouses or factory farms, and they're just like, okay, all right, I don't want to do this. But then within a day or 2, it's like, no, it's too difficult. I can't make the change. And what I want to say to people is, well, number 1, you mostly eat vegan already. If
Right.
you think about it, every vegetable, every fruit, every grain, every bean, every nut that you've ever eaten in your life is
Right.
vegan. It's funny, I live in Harlem, and in the neighborhood supermarket there, a couple of months ago, there was this big display in the produce section, and it was dates. And then these dates had a big green sticker on them that said, vegan. And I'm thinking, it's a fruit.
Yeah.
It's always been vegan. And yet, if you just think about what you eat most days, you're eating a lot of vegan food already. So all you're going to do is eat more of it.
Right.
And then you also want to get to know more of these amazing vegetables and fruits, because the greens and the veggies in particular are going to make you so young, so pretty, so happy, so sexy. Why would you want to do anything else?
So that's a great lead off. So for the people that you mentioned, that you have the beans, you have the nuts, the fruits, the vegetables is already vegan. And a lot of people say, well, how do you get your protein? How do you get your calcium? You know, they focus on milk as calcium,
Right.
but isn't broccoli a good source of calcium?
Sure, all the greens. In fact, where did the cow get her calcium?
Wow,
She got
sure.
it from the grass that she
Wow.
ate. It's very interesting, these questions that we ask. If we just take it one step further, there's usually a very, very practical, simple answer.
Right.
Calcium is a ubiquitous mineral. It's in the ground. Plants process the mineral calcium so that it can be assimilated by animals. So when you get calcium from dairy products, and certainly it's in there, you're getting it secondhand. You may as well get it firsthand. Right. So you can get a lot of calcium in all the leafy greens, the broccoli, the kale,
Right.
anything dark and leafy. There's also lots of calcium in almonds, in sesame seeds, and you can make wonderful salad dressings out of tahini. Very high calcium food. Blackstrap molasses. You sweeten your smoothie with that stuff, and you're taking care of calcium and iron in one fell swoop.
Wow.
And the protein, that's the biggest question. I
Yes.
say it in Main Street Vegan. If you have ever asked God for patience, you're getting your prayer answered, because you're going to have to be so patient for the rest of your life as everybody says, where do you get your protein? Where do you get your protein? Where do you get your protein? When protein is needed for growth and repair, and most of us have finished growing, at least we hope so,
Right.
and so we need a reasonably low percentage of protein. If you think about milk that is fed to babies, human milk only has 3% protein. It's
Wow.
actually, if you look at a chart of the various mammals' milk, human milk is the lowest in protein and the highest in sugar.
Wow.
Because we're natural sweet eaters. We're designed to reach for fruit. That's a really good thing for people to be eating. Yeah. So we don't need a huge amount of protein. If we can get by on 3% when we're growing more than we'll ever grow in the rest of our lives, the World Health Organization says about 6% just to be safe for the rest of us. And that is so easily had in any natural plant foods. If you want to be protein deficient, you can be an alcoholic and drink all your meals. That would work. You could become anorexic and be in a starvation state. Then
Right.
you'd be lacking in everything. You can live on all junk food. I mean, you can totally go on pork rinds and Twizzlers, and then you would be protein deficient. And you could also be at risk for protein deficiency if you ate nothing but fruit. because a lot of fruits are below that percentage of protein that we need. But otherwise, eat natural foods and a variety of them, and then worry about other things. You can worry about global warming. You can worry about how much things cost, but you don't have to worry about protein.
I love that. That's great. So
was really good.
you mentioned a lot of these fruits and the vegetables. Do you think a great way to ease yourself into a vegan lifestyle or a healthier lifestyle is the first step is possibly juicing?
Oh, juicing's great.
So we were talking a little bit about
conversation.
Right. So first I want to know like what your favorite juice is.
Okay.
What's like your go-to recipe?
It is a green goddess, green lemonade. It has different names.
goddess.
Do you guys
Ooh.
have that?
The green
Is that
the
like
mean
mean green?
What's in mean green?
It's spinach, kale, broccoli,
lemon and
lemon,
an apple,
and
cucumber.
an apple, and a cucumber.
Well, that's more complex than the one I usually
But
do.
I like
but
green
yeah,
goddess
that,
better.
that would do. I just do celery, kale, apple, and lemon.
Okay.
And it
We're gonna try
tastes
that.
like lemonade. You know, if you were blindfolded and didn't see the green, you would just think it was a really nice lemonade.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to try that.
Seriously, that sounds like a great. So that's a great way to focus on greens and juicing is to incorporate that into your diet. You mentioned something about the 5 fitness food groups
Right.
in Main Street Vegan.
Yeah, those were the ones that we talked about, the fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, which means beans,
Okay.
and nuts and seeds.
Okay.
And somebody can hear that and it's like, yeah, well, that's kind of basic. But when
Right.
you mix all that together, and there's so many different ways to eat as a vegan or on a plant-based diet. You know, some people eat a lot of raw, and I'm kind of in that camp. I'm really of the high raw belief system that lots of great big salads, juices, smoothies, it just gives you this wonderful feeling of
Yes.
vitality and clarity. But that's not required. If you
Right.
you can have a very healthy plant-based diet that's more winter foods, where you have a lot more soups and casseroles and stir fries and, you know, hot chocolate, the comfort foods. Those are
Right.
all there too, because you can have vegan versions of pretty much anything.
Right. So now we're green goddesses. We're incorporating this into our lifestyle. You know, we're juicing, we're eating healthy. There was something really great that you wrote about that I definitely want to touch upon is the cruelty-free cosmetics.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of people forget that your skin is the biggest organ. It soaks in whatever you put on top of it.
Right.
So if you're
Yeah.
putting on the makeup that has all this chemical
Yeah.
and don't even want to think about it.
Yes.
Can you touch upon that
Sure.
about what, you know, so what exactly do you talk about in the book?
Well, there are 2 aspects in the cosmetic area. One is the cruelty to animals, and one is the toxicity
Right.
that we do to ourselves. So on the first part, most people don't know that most conventional cosmetics, now a lot of companies have stopped and do not test on animals anymore, and some of these are very conventional companies, and I do have a listing of them in the book. You can also go online. PETA has a great updated list. There's another one called Leaping Bunny that are the companies that don't test on animals, so it's a lot easier to find that stuff than it used to be. But you don't want to or support those people. I mean,
No,
it's
it's true.
really, it's nasty what they do, and it's not necessary. It's not required by any law. And because so many of the companies are not doing it, it's obviously perfectly safe
Right.
that you're having the cruelty-free cosmetics. So that's number one. And then you also, if you want to be uncruel to yourself, you want to have the more natural kinds of cosmetics. Now, that's a little scary to some people because they're not widely available in some of the stores where we like to shop for cosmetics. The idea that you're going to go to the same store for your nutritional yeast and fake and bacon as for your makeup
Okay.
is just weird.
Right.
Because people who are used to shopping for cosmetics in department stores, you know, there's a certain aura about them. And you
Right.
walk through there and this very, very attractive person just shows up from out of nowhere and says, that lip color is fabulous on you. And you don't get that at the health food store. And yet the cosmetics are absolutely lovely, many of them. So there are some great companies. Dr. Hauschka, I absolutely love. Pure as the driven snow, not cheap,
Okay.
but pure.
Okay.
And you know, sometimes you need to spend a little bit to get something.
Yeah.
But there are also some really low-cost skincare options at the regular drugstore. There's this company, Yes to, and then it has all these different produce names. So it'll say yes to carrots, yes to cucumbers, yes to blueberries. But they make wonderful, wonderful skincare products that you can just get at any old
Wow.
Duane Reader's CVS. They're very, very natural. They're cruelty-free. So you have to do a little homework. But once you get the brands that you like,
Right.
you
Then
can
it's
look
accessible.
absolutely gorgeous every day. And, of course, you're helping that out by your
Of
glow
course.
from your juices and everything.
So now we're eating healthy. We're wearing makeup that's toxin free and it's not cruel. And I see here that you also are involved in fashion.
Yes.
So tell us about, we're based out of New York City. Everyone wants to know what's going on in the fashion world. Tell us what's going on in the vegan fashion world. I mean, because that's really exciting.
Yeah.
is, yeah.
Well, there is a vegan fashion world.
I love
which,
it.
You know,
I like
there certainly didn't used to be. I mean, when I started, the idea of vegan shoes, it was like, okay, we've got Payless and those Chinese black patent Mary Jane flats. Which could basically put a podiatrist on speed dial. But that's all changed. There are all of these fabulous companies for shoes, coats, the whole thing. Olson House, for example, a wonderful, wonderful company for shoes. They actually were just featured on Friday on The Price is Right. Now, if that's not mainstream,
Yeah.
what is? But I have this great Olson House story. There's a wonderful shoe store in New York City. It's a totally vegan shoe store. There are a few of those around the country. The one we have here is called Moose Shoes. And I went there, and she had these unbelievable boots. There are these black, ultra suede, over-the-knee boots, and then the cuff folds down,
I love
and it's
that.
periwinkle blue. And they were expensive, and I kind of walked away. And then in the subway, it was like God spoke to me. And God said, Victoria, you are almost too old for over-the-knee black, ultra suede boots with periwinkle cuffs. Almost.
Almost.
Not quite.
There you go.
Don't let this pass you by. And I went back the next day and bought the boots. And what
Good for
I've
you.
seen is that there's such a great way to share this lifestyle with people, because everywhere I go, all over the city in the wintertime wearing my great boots, and people will say, fabulous boots. And I get to say they're vegan. Or they will say, where'd you get those boots? And I say, Moose Shoes, and they're vegan. Or they'll go, whoa, mama. And I'll say, and they're vegan. So that's going on with shoes. I mean, we know in the upscale world, there's Stella McCartney.
Right.
There's also a wonderful bag company, Jill Milan, I absolutely love. These are very upscale bags. She makes them in an atelier in Florence, where they also make the Yves Saint Laurent and the Balenciaga bags. All of the fixtures are handmade, and these are super high quality. And for those of us on a budget, there are also a whole variety. I have a whole appendix in the back of Main Street Vegan telling you about places that you can get wonderful, wonderful bags, shoes, everything else online. And another company I just want to talk about is Vote Couture. So we all know fur is nasty.
Right.
And in certain circles, it's trying to make a comeback, and people are saying, you know, I'm rebellious and I'm chic and I don't care. You know, if you wear fur, you may as well be smoking 3 packs a day. It is that stupid, and it is that outdated and ridiculous. Right. But what a lot of people don't know is that wool is not the best thing to be wearing either. Because even though it's hard to give up, it was the last thing that I stopped buying as a vegan, and I've been vegan a long time. So this is a process. It's not like everybody changes everything overnight. But wool isn't just shaved from sheep like you'd get a haircut.
Right.
They grow way too much of it, and so the shearing process is often very, very harsh. And in Australia, where most of the wool comes from, they do this awful thing called mulesing, where they actually slice off a big chunk of the lamb's backside so that it will heal as a smooth scar, and they won't get maggots, which happens because they're growing too much wool, and the sheep have folds in their skin. It's nasty, nasty. So if you want to look for an alternative, I mean, we've got fake fur, you know, you've got canvas, we've got wonderful puffer coats. You don't want to have down, because that's yanked from the birds, or it comes from the foie gras industry, which is really cruel. But beautiful dress coats used to be really hard to find. And there's this lovely young woman named Leanne Hilgard, and she created Vote Couture, like haute couture, but V for vegan.
I love it.
And her coats are not only vegan, but they are environmentally completely friendly, a lot of recycled materials. They're made in America, right in the garment district in New York City. You know, people say you don't make anything in America.
Right.
Yes, we do. Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
And you have to support those companies.
Yes, and these are people who are paid a living wage. So check out votecouture.com. And if you're in the New York City area, she has a boutique in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Great.
And that's another one. I wear this coat, and I get so many compliments that I fear I'm going to become this awful egotist. Like if I go to pay for something and I'm wearing that coat and nobody says, that's a fabulous coat, where did you get it? I just stand there and wait because I know it's coming. I mean, it's that wonderful. And there's so many of these things out there. It's such an adventure.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Victoria, you are just so full of knowledge.
I
And
know.
I love listening to you. So you're also
Yeah.
a speaker, an inspirational speaker. Where are you? I mean, I know your book tour is starting. This
Yes.
is like the gearing up of all the fun things
Getting
that are
ready.
going on, you know, for the publicity. Is there going to be any place that you'll be speaking at or where the
Yeah.
viewers will be able to find out more information?
Sure. Well, you can go to mainstreetvegan.net and look at the calendar, and that has all the information. I'll be in Los Angeles May 1st, Dallas May 3rd, Kansas City May 4th.
Hometown.
Hometown. That'll be great. I'll be there with Rainy Day Books and Unity on the Plaza. The 8th is Chicago. The 9th is Columbus.
Fun.
And the 10th is D.C., Busboys and Poets. And then May 15th, New York City, Barnes & Noble on the Upper West Side.
Oh, great.
And I also want to share that in addition to speaking, I'm putting together, based on this book, a one-woman show called The Making of a Main Street Vegan.
Do we just get an
Love
exclusive?
it.
Is that like
That's first for you.
That's really
Yay.
exciting.
It's-
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, I tell a lot of stories in this book because it's really our stories that influence other people
Right.
and that have more
Personal
meaning than
experiences.
facts. Exactly. Other facts too, obviously. But the stories are really powerful. So I'm putting together the solo show, and it will premiere in New York City on October 5th at the Integral Yoga
goodness.
Institute
Wow.
on 13th Street.
Yay.
Definitely going to have to.
We'll definitely be there
Yes.
to
Thank
support you.
you.
Thanks so
Absolutely.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for stopping by and taking the
great
time
fun.
right
Yes.
before your whirlwind excitement starts.
Before
Thank
you trot around the country.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And please let the viewers know where they can be in touch with you via Twitter or, again, your website.
Great. At Twitter, I am at Victoria_Moran. And the website with our fun book trailer and lots of other great information is www.mainstreetvegan.net.
Beautiful. Thank you again so much. And we wish you lots of success. And we
Thank
cannot
you.
wait to read the book, Main
Thank
Street
you.
Vegan. Again, it is available April 26th at your stores, online, anywhere. Go pick it up, read it, and support a wonderful woman. Thank you so
Yes.
much
Thank
again.
you, Victoria.
Thanks,
Thank you.
ladies.
All right. Bye-bye.